Thank you.
Pranam, Kabir.
Pranam, pranam. Just wait a minute, see if some more people turn up. Some new faces. Welcome if it's your first time. Of course, I can only see two people's faces, my own. So I really have no idea if the names correspond to people I've met before or not. Geshe-la at Tibet House, he insists everyone show their faces during the teachings, but I can see that it's not the habitual pattern, I think, in many sessions. So it's okay. In this way, you can be doing whatever you want, and I won't know. That's also okay. Well, it's not okay, but that's how it is. You had that experience. I've been on Zoom sessions when I'm not the so-called teacher, and yeah, I've been doing other things briefly. Okay, so we're going to start now, and I appreciate everybody being here. I'll mute you all for the time being, and then we'll have time for discussion later. So what I plan today is, after the usual motivation and posture, we will engage in a silent period, as usual. And then I want to look at a text that was brought out just after 1983 of teachings that Lama Zopa Rinpoche, late Lama Zopa Rinpoche, gave in Italy, which is a very interesting and useful text, teaching. It's the transcript of a teaching he gave on how to develop loving compassion. The title itself is interesting because usually we say loving kindness, or we say compassion, or we say Bodhicitta, if we're referring to that. But here the title is How to Develop Loving Compassion. And it's a commentary on practice of what we call thought transformation and Bodhicitta in everyday life. Yeah. Bob, are you with us? Yeah, please. Okay. So please make sure your posture is relatively upright. Use as many cushions as you need. If you're on a chair, then again, make sure that you're not slouching backwards. There might need to be a cushion between your back and the chair, the back of the chair. If you are on a chair, then you might be sitting cross-legged. Some people like to do that. If your feet are on the ground, then let both soles of the feet be on the ground, yeah, flat. Don't cross your legs normal style as people do when they're sitting Western style, not like that. So the posture is to aid proper flow of internal energy. It helps us to focus. It's a well-established posture that has been proven over millennia to benefit body and mind. The head, it's very easy for the head to go up in the air somewhat. Head should be tilted slightly downwards, slightly forwards, so that there's a slight stretch in the back of the neck. Very slight. So that if you were to open your eyes in that posture, you wouldn't be looking at the wall or the ceiling in front of you. You would be looking at a spot on the floor, maybe 6-7 feet in front of you. on the floor. So slightly incline forwards, the head. In this beginner's practice, there may be some other practices which people do, which require, for example, gazing at the horizon. But those are specific, higher, sort of different practices. This is basic what we're doing here. Let the shoulders be level. Arms gently at the side of the body, a gap between the torso and the arms. Hands relaxed in the lap or on the thighs. If they're in the lap, then the traditional position is often to nestle the right palm in the left with the thumbs gently touching. So the 10 fingers and thumbs touching symbolizes the union of the 10 major winds in the body, internal energy systems, winds, pran. Let the eyes be slightly open if possible, otherwise gently closed. And as we connect with the breath, let us also connect with the sensation of the body sitting, the contact with the cushion or chair, which means the actual sensation of it, where your body touches the cushion or chair, there's sensation. It's not a thought, it's a sensation. So be aware of that. The sensation of your arms, your hands, where they are touching. And how does it feel in the muscles of your face? Is there tension around the jaw, around the mouth, around the eyes? If so, gently release. Now, as far as the breath is concerned, see if we can pay attention to its movement in and out of the body through the nostrils. The sensation of it at the tip of the nostrils as you breathe in. There's a sensation of it in the upper half of the body, in the chest. You may even be able to feel it deeper in the body, lower down. But whatever may be the case, let there be a sense of gentle attention. We're not straining anything here. We're not going to try too hard. We do that in many areas of our life and it exhausts us. It makes us tense and basically out of balance. And the more out of balance we become, the more the internal organs are affected, the energy flow between them, and that leads to sickness, to disease. The word disease, of course, very interesting, dis-ease. It's a state where the ease, the comfort, the relaxation has been disturbed. So here we restore the balance, begin to restore the balance through a sense of calm, clarity, and very importantly, also a sense of kindness towards oneself. Just like a young infant or young child in distress, for some reason goes to the mother and feels the love of the mother or the father or whoever, a kind adult, or even a kind older brother or sister, instantly feels reassured, feels again balanced, at peace. So there is really no substitute for kindness. A sense of gentleness towards oneself. And if we are able to slow down and begin to pay attention and not be in a hurry about anything, then there's a natural sense of care, a natural sense of, almost we could call it a sort of atmosphere or environment of kindness is created in the sense of gentleness, not being in a rush. Tenderness. So experiment with this for a while, just being aware of breath, letting go and relaxing with the out breath, and not getting caught up with the thinking process, being aware when thoughts come and just letting them go. Letting them go, coming back to the breath in a very relaxed but attentive manner. So let's sit like this for a little while and then we'll engage in the motivation as well later. So let's sit for 6 or 7 minutes in this way. Sense of calm, sense of clarity, kindness, stillness in the body, relaxation in body and mind, but also attentive, very alert, very vigilant. So perhaps the first thing we can engage in, which is what the teaching actually starts with, teaching that Rinpoche gave 5th of September 1983 at our institute in Italy, North Italy. He started with rejoicing. Rejoicing, why? Because as he puts it, we all came here to learn something, to participate in the meditation course, so as to develop, do something for the mind, seeking a method to develop mental peace. So he thanked the audience for that and said that he feels, he feels to rejoice, he feels rejoicefulness. So we can all rejoice, actually, that instead of simply watching a screen or shopping or engaging in an activity which basically at some level disturbs the peace of the mind, instead of that we've come here to investigate something else, we can rejoice in that. There's potential in what we are doing to create causes for lasting happiness. Simply living with some awareness of our body, of our mind, the Buddha said was the path of awakening, path of light. Those without awareness are already as dead, at least dead to the spiritual life, to the life of understanding, and a life in which we could even benefit other people. So everybody here at Tushita online came to the session for the same reason that those mainly Western people came to the course, 40 years ago in North Italy. They came seeking happiness, not desiring suffering. All the diverse human beings, different colors, different appearances, different nationalities, and about whom we have so many contrasting thoughts, don't we, and feelings towards different people within our own country, outside our country. But every single one of them the same in wanting happiness, not wanting suffering. This is something we overlook. Perhaps we think it's too simplistic. But we should think about this one, that we keep on repeating, of course, but we keep on forgetting as well. Some things we get used to. We brush our teeth every day. It's good to remember those things. Well, today I forgot. I didn't brush my teeth till 5 p.m. Can you imagine? Even some things like that one can forget to do. So it's very easy to forget that all living beings, especially the people whom we feel are being obnoxious and problematic for us, all they want is, happiness. And they don't know how to find it. See, that's the problem. That's a problem for them. And they are creating causes for the opposite of what they want. Due to ignorance, it's like being blind. And even without the white stick that blind people have. So we want to find the path, we want to find the right way, but the way we're walking without sight, we keep on hurting ourselves, bumping into others, and so forth. So anyway, we all want to be happy. And Rinpoche, again, on the very first, probably first few minutes of him talking, he's saying how, again, something we need to remember all the time. Where are we looking for happiness? He says they're looking for happiness externally, always looking for it externally. That's where we think it resides. In objects, in people, in places. We're not happy somewhere, so we think, okay, I'll be happy somewhere else, or going somewhere else, or being with someone else, buying something else, starting a new kind of, starting a new kind of diet. Maybe the new job. And of course, all these things can help. There's no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. They can help, but they're not the original source of our happiness. And when we're told that it resides in the mind, we're at a loss because, it's like being told about some country we never heard of. You've never heard of Aruba or St. Kitts or something, and you say, yeah. People say, what, where, what is that? So most people haven't been introduced to the mind. Most of modern science thinks it's just some kind of byproduct of the brain, of neurological activity. No experience in working with what we call mind or awareness, consciousness. So just to begin to feel that, wow, maybe I'm looking for happiness in the wrong place. And not just myself, but the whole world. The whole world is built on, the whole system is based on some external sources of happiness. Which is, of course, why we plundered the planet. Why would we plunder a planet if we are pretty much satisfied with very simple things and our own company, in the sense that a very simple setup and not needing a whole bunch of artificial gadgets and products, all of which now seem to need packaging, etc., etc., etc. So in the process, destroying everything, destroying the foundation of our life. This all comes, don't you think, from searching for happiness outside, The Buddha, his father thought that he could distract his son long enough, for him to just totally get used to the life, luxurious life of a prince, right? Whether or not we believe the story, to be 100% accurate, that, he wasn't allowed to meet old people, flowers were taken out before they drooped, etc., etc., may or may not be true. The point is, his father, society, the structure, was trying to brainwash him into thinking that the life he was leading, that his father wanted him to lead, was the right one, was the only one, was the one that brought happiness, the one that brought satisfaction. But just, he saw through that. Siddhartha, from a very young age, saw through that. He wasn't brainwashed by that. He had enough intelligence to know that something was wrong with that storyline, if you like. And of course, he searched. He began to look outside, and there were questions coming up which his father couldn't answer, or what his father was proposing, the lifestyle his father was proposing, did not answer those questions. Death, sickness, old age, birth itself. And then he said to have had a seen somebody very calmly sitting, meditating under a tree, a sage, some sannyasin maybe, and wondering what that was about. Feeling perhaps some kinship with that posture, with that attitude. So anyway, we're making the point, which I think is so important, because we could have been Buddhists or so-called spiritual people or spiritually inclined for a lifetime, but we're still looking for happiness outside, in food, in people, places, objects, you name it, buildings, properties, power, wealth, you name it, praise, good reputation, gain, pleasure. None of those things are bad in themselves. Problem arises when we put so much emphasis on them and feel that that is the cause of happiness. So if that was the cause of happiness, of course, it's very simple to destroy that with very simple logic. If those things were really bringing happiness, then why are countries like the United States and some of the very rich, so-called rich countries, way down on the scale of how happy people say they are? The societies that seem to be happier are either a little bit simpler, far simpler, or they seem to be societies where people take care of one another more, or the state takes better care of the citizens. There are better structures set up for that. Anyway, so Rinpoche makes this point that they are not seeking mind peace by developing the inner factor of the mind, the good heart. They are only seeking it externally. So good heart here refers to, of course, not a physical heart, but having a kind attitude, a loving attitude. That is what is meant here by good heart. So anyway, we're intelligent people and we read things and we know that the amount of depression and insomnia and so many psychosomatic and other problems nowadays happen to all kinds of people, including people who have everything they need and more. So it's obvious that those things, external material things, do not bring peace and happiness. Quoting Rinpoche, and this is all for us to reflect on. This is not obviously as any kind of sermon. We are here to reflect on what is being said, and hopefully some clarity and light will emerge on our situation. We're not going to finish this text today, by the way, even though it's a slim book of 80 pages or so. We're not going to rush through it. Rinpoche says, you have so much wealth, but because you have so many problems, sometimes you might even wish, oh, if I were a cat, how wonderful it would be. Thinking that there would be no problems then, no relationship problems. Some people think, if I were a beggar, not having any of the wealth that I have now, then I would have no problems, no danger. Someone of very high rank, such as a king or president, might wish, oh, if I were a beggar like those beggars on the streets, how wonderful it would be, how happy I would be. Wishing to be an animal or something like that is because you are not aware, just because you do not see that they have problems. It does not mean that they do not have problems. It's just we're not aware of it. You haven't checked up well. You haven't checked up well enough. On one level, don't you think watching programs like, Discovery, Animal Planet, sometimes National Geographic might have, I don't know, but the programs where they show a lot of animals, they seem to love having showing animals killing other animals. That's kind of exciting, right? Or they have, beautiful kind of idyllic scenes with amazing photography. And one begins to think this is such a wonderful thing somehow. It's so beautiful, so wonderful. And of course, in some ways it is. But what would it be like to be one of those beings? And because of the detail actually in the photography, one can get very close to, if one has imagination, which is very essential, of course, one can imagine almost what it's like to be one of those animals, one of those insects, one of those snakes, or whatever it is. But what would it really be like? Or even a bird. We think it must be wonderful to be a bird, soaring high in the Andes or something, what is it, condor or some other majestic bird. Or even a pigeon. Sometimes we might want to be a pigeon. At least they're well fed. They think people are feeding them everywhere, and all they do is, fly around and eat and sit in trees. But that's because we don't have understanding. So we need to check up well. Of course, we won't be able to check up perfectly until we have deeper levels of understanding, which come through having certain states of mind developed through meditation, things like clairvoyance and knowing things very deeply. That comes a lot later. But even now, if we actually check what are animals doing, what are birds doing most of the time, they're not, making the sounds they do and doing what they do simply because they are somehow joyful or, happy all the time. So again, we need to be aware. And one way to be aware is to check what some of the great sages of the past have said about the different realms, like the human realm, the animal realm. To read up what it is said that very highly evolved people think about these realms, not what the photographers or the Animal Planet producers think. And some of them also may know very well that it's a very, savage world. It's just that they don't feel that it's got anything to do with them. Whereas from a Buddhist point of view, animal realm is just a few minutes away, possibly, for us. In the sense that if we die, there's no guarantee we're reborn as a human being. It depends on many factors. So anyway, somehow we need to be more aware. So we need to be aware that all beings want happiness, that externally we can search and search and search, but we're not going to find the source of happiness outside. And we just need to be more aware of the different realms. This is what Rinpoche has already said within the space of a few minutes, starting his talk. Then again, because this is a kind of introductory talk, I guess, he brings up the subject of education, because he's talking at a big Buddhist center that's been there in Italy, part of the organization we're connected with. It's been there since probably the end of the 70s, something like that. And education is their business, is their job, not business in the sense. They're not there to make money out of education, but that's what they do. Not just educating adults, but educating children as well. So what does Rinpoche say about that? He says, also trying to obtain wealth, education, these things, studying for 30 or 40 years since you were a child, all this isn't used to make the mind pure. It's not used to make the mind pure. It's not used to develop the good heart, meaning that, kind heart, because it's not used for that purpose. No matter how much work, no matter how much education there is, life just becomes more confused than before. Does that ring a bell? we become very sophisticated, very intelligent. We have a lot of information at our fingertips, of course, even if we don't already know it, it's there, isn't it? But are we more clear as a result? Are we any less confused? That's something to check. Of course, this is 40 years ago. You might think things are better now. Some people might think they're worse now. There's no change in the mind. That's what Rinpoche is saying. After years of education, so-called education, what is supposed to happen is greater peace of mind. Well, even that, I'm not sure that's the aim of modern education. Anyway, what is supposed to happen is greater peace of mind. Maybe the logic there is that since we want peace of mind, we want happiness, surely education must be helping us to gain greater peace of mind, but that's not happening. That doesn't happen. One is more confused than an uneducated child. Therefore, it's incredibly important, so important, that to gain happiness in everyday life, peace of mind in everyday life, you transform the mind. Have less envy, less anger, less dissatisfaction, jealousy, pride, ill will, ignorance. Without changing the selfish attitude, the anger, the dissatisfaction, ignorance, all those things, there'll be no peace. So you might say, well, you know, what's so original about that? Well, there's nothing original about this. You know, it's like, yeah, it's been spoken about for thousands of years, but we need to hear it, don't we? Because we don't practice this. We have all those factors probably to some extent that have just been listed. Envy, anger, dissatisfaction, jealousy, pride, ill will, ignorance. Ignorance definitely we have. You may not have many of the others, but we have ignorance in the sense of what Buddhists call ignorance. You may get 100% and have your name on the front of the newspaper, but you know, all those little photographs of people, all these children going through the educational sausage machine. Some get 100%, but they don't have peace, you know. They are not, we're not saying they have uprooted the cause for envy, jealousy, unhappiness, depression. We can't say none of them will commit suicide, you know, before they're 40. You know, high chance of many of them committing suicide, thinking that, you know, getting 100% is something fantastic, means that they're very intelligent and so forth. So all these problems, all the problems like depression, feeling up, going up and down, one day the mind is happy, the next day it's unhappy, all these things, all the fear, the nervous breakdown, or that one has committed suicide, even no one else tried to kill you, you kill yourself, you become your own enemy. All these problems come from your own unsubdued mind. Does that make sense, I wonder? Your own unsubdued, meaning untamed, untrained, a mind that is wild, not trained to work through things properly. Is easily dislodged from a state of peace and harmony. I'll stop soon so we can have some discussion. Then Rinpoche speaks of something slightly technical without giving the whole list, but he says there are, in the classification of mind and mental factors, the way it's taught in the Tibetan tradition, there are, say, 20 secondary so-called disturbing states of mind. The main ones are anger, attachment, ignorance, so forth, but there are 20 subsidiary ones that are mentioned. But he says the root of them all is attachment, anger, ignorance. All suffering, all unhappiness comes from these unsubdued minds. You want to know what the cause of the war in Ukraine is, or what any problem that's happening in the world? in a person's mind, in the family, in the clan, in the village, in the town, in the country, in the world. All these problems come from unsubdued mind. Mind which has anger, attachment, based on ignorance, not understanding reality, not understanding the absolute nature of the mind. If we understood the absolute nature of the mind, we would be at peace. We'd constantly have a sense of mental peace. Even though we could still function, obviously, in the world, we'd function very well, but there would be a basic state of balance and peace. Then Rinpoche goes into a discussion on how to meditate on emptiness. Now, that of course is one of Rinpoche's hallmarks. He would often start a meditation course with this topic, which is one of the hardest, but in a sense is one of the most important, because we often relate to religion as something which means you develop kindness and a kind heart and you don't kill and steal and so forth. And of course, all those things have to be there, you could say. But other religions don't talk much at all about how to develop real wisdom. What is actually wrong, cognitively wrong, with the way we perceive ourselves in the world? What is wrong with that? What is the right way to perceive ourselves in the world? Buddhism has a unique way of looking at that, very sophisticated. Very sophisticated. And that is studied deeply, level by level, step by step, in the monastic universities and so on, for many years. Because until we understand who or what we are, we will keep on clinging, it is said, to a very heavy sort of sense of who we are, a very heavy, solid kind of grasping or holding on to who we think we are, which is very uncomfortable. It's like holding a weight all the time, which one can't let go of, but which one identifies with, and which makes us feel very solid and real, and makes us then feel that others are very solidly real in the way they appear to be. And then the whole scenario is set up for liking some really good people and disliking some really solidly appearing bad people or annoying people or whatever it is. So it always comes back in Buddhism to perception. How am I perceiving? Not just what am I feeling, not just am I being kind or not kind. That, of course, is important in our human relations and in many ways. But how am I actually viewing the world? And when I'm kind or have a kind moment, do I then, say, oh, that I was kind. That was very good. Is there a sense of holding on to a sense of me who is a very good person? Because if there is, then that is also a fault. That is also has to be overcome. So you see, it's already getting quite complicated. And if I were to read the paragraph, it might be rather difficult for most of you. And Rinpoche uses it later as the basis of dialogue and discussion with some of his students, including one very, very intelligent American monk called George, who used to run Tushita Delhi briefly until, poor fellow, he got typhoid, and I think Sheikh Sarai was living there, and he got typhoid. Anyway, he was a very good debater. So he debates later on in this text, because it's verbatim. Yeah, it's a transcript of the course. Rinpoche and him engage in some interesting dialogue. And we might look at that tomorrow. Tomorrow? Yeah, Tuesday. But let's see if we can begin to look at it here. And remember, it's all in the context of generating love and compassion. So you might say, why are we discussing wisdom when we're supposed to be discussing love and compassion? Yeah. Why are we discussing wisdom in the sense of, how do I exist? What is my perception of myself? Am I a solid sort of real person? Is there a solid real person in here or not? What has that got to do with love and compassion, do you think? I'll put this question out to you so that you folks have to do some work. Although, of course, I admit it's hard work listening to me sometimes, but okay, you folks tell me, what do you think? Did you hear the question okay? What's this discussion? Why do Buddhists discuss wisdom? Why isn't loving kindness, compassion, being nice, kind, smiling and all that? Why isn't that enough? What's all this wisdom business? Understanding the true nature of the I. Anybody? People who've done the diploma or master's course should have no problem talking about this without hesitation or without being shy. And I see some of you online have done that, so I'm not going to pick on you, but anybody? Anybody in simple terms? I'm not asking for a long discourse or discussion of Madhyamaka, Prasangika in detail. I'm just asking for why wisdom might be important. Why is Rinpoche introducing wisdom on the 3rd page of a transcript when the topic is loving compassion? What's going on? Because he doesn't realize what he's supposed to be teaching? Yes.
In order to have love and compassion, you need to have some awareness of yourself and your surroundings, and that would require wisdom so that you see your relationship with the people around you.
You see your relationship, okay. Could you go deeper into what you mean by see your relationship with people around you? You're not just talking of whether somebody is your son or daughter or, what is our relation to others?
In terms of how we respond to people, in terms of their actions, how we kind of.
How we respond to their action. If I asked you, who are you and how do you respond to yourself, how might you begin to answer that question? Who are you and how do you relate with yourself?
My consciousness.
What's your consciousness? Can you see your consciousness? Touch it? When you say hello to it, or, what is your consciousness? Well, who are you? When I ask you, who are you? If someone comes up in the street and they don't look vicious or nasty or a thief, and you don't, want to run away, and they ask you, who are you? What do you think? What happens then? Who are you? I wonder what one thinks at that point. Or if they ask you, what are you? Who are you? What would you say? I would give my name and I might, say that, I might give some background to, conventional background about myself. Might even tell them, not exactly, but roughly where I live. But what are you? Who are you? Let me ask you. So fundamentally, who are you? What do you think defines you? If you were to give one sentence to make somebody understand who or what you are, what would you say? Anilji? Huh? It's not easy, is it? But how might it be connected with love and compassion? Do you ever have a solid sense of who you are? That you need to somehow protect yourself? There's something vulnerable there? Yes. Isn't there, Sonaliji? There is something that feels very solid, right? And what is that? Where is it? The body? Is it the mind? Is it in the head? Is it in the heart? The guts? Is it an image? What is it? So you see, these are interesting questions which nobody is answering. Even the long-term students. We need a newcomer, with a fresh beginner's mind, not cluttered with old thoughts. Yes. Yes, sir.
when I imagine myself or who am I when I think of that question, I think by and large it's a mix of good, bad traits.
Good,
plus-
bad traits, okay.
Plus some probably morals that you abide
Okay,
by.
some morals you abide by. But how about someone, okay, now somebody comes up in the street and says, let's see, what could it be? They say, you're an idiot. They just say, you're an idiot, you're walking in a strange way and you almost bumped into me. And they say, you idiot. What happens at that point
So I think
in your mind?
I think our ego comes up.
Okay, what
then-
is ego for you? Can you begin to describe it in some way in terms of experience?
I think something that touches upon my vulnerabilities or
Yeah.
which is a
Can-
part that I want to protect.
Who feels abused or offended when somebody comes up and says, you idiot, or you foolish person, or, you know, how dare you look at me and my dog like that? Then what would you, what part of you gets affected? What part of you needs to, well, A, you might react or you might shrink and feel bad, but what is it inside one that feels that? What inside one feels that? Oh, yeah, garam garam.
Throw this away.
Huh?
Throw this away.
Yeah.
You can, or just put it in that bucket there. Yeah. So, huh? Dustbin mein nahi.
Under the pond.
What happens when I think Bob is going to put water in the dustbin is I feel, what the, yes, you got the right one. Yeah. Yeah, so very good stuff. So ego, but how would you define ego in terms of experience, not theoretical, your experience of it?
So I think ego comes up when
Not I think, I want more like I feel, or I have had the experience that think to kuch bhi ho sakta hai.
So
Thank you.
most times that I have felt that if somebody is insulting or somebody is saying something that makes me question what is my worth or my assessment of myself.
Right. Why does that happen? Where does it hit you? That blame or that nasty comment, where does it hit you? If you had to point to something, where does it hit your mind? Does it hit your body? Which part of your body? Which part of your mind? I mean, is your mind your body? You know, all these questions can come up.
Self-worth,
Self-esteem to theek hai kehna, but what is it in oneself? Sorry? Heart. It hits this area. Some people maybe, if it's fear, then also the solar plexus can be involved. If someone suddenly brings out a knife in the street, and you feel they're going to harm me, doesn't the me come up? The sense of me, I, very strongly.
So physiologically the heart most times, but I think it's in the mind that I think perturbs.
Can you begin to see, maybe, can we begin to see how this might be related to love and compassion? Let me define those terms so we know exactly what we're talking about, just especially for newcomers. Love is not the filmy love necessarily. It is basically the wish for others to be happy. Affection, and that affectionate sense of may you be happy, whoever you are. It doesn't just refer to a family member or partner or something. And compassion is the wish for others to be free of their suffering. That's how it's the very simple definitions, that sense of, you see someone's pain and suffering and you want them to be free of it. So how is what we're talking about connected to those? Yeah, Nivita ji.
I want to take a stab at it, but I also realized that probably the people on Zoom can't unmute, that's why they're silent. Maybe.
No, they can unmute because I've given them permission to unmute.
Okay.
But it's very good of you to check because you are good at that. But no, I did that.
Okay.
They can, but they are at the moment fascinated spectators, like a poor little rodent in front of a swaying cobra. They are transfixed by our discussion, aren't you, folks? Sujitji, are you transfixed?
Always, always.
Always, always, he says. They can hear, they can speak. Yeah. Bulliye. Speak loudly though, yourself, so they can hear you.
I think so like love and compassion, they say, is the second wing of the bird, and wisdom is one wing and compassion is the other wing. Without wisdom, we can't truly be compassionate.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
then
we know
can't
that, but
go-
why? What's the reasoning?
I think maybe because you can't, with compassion and loving kindness, it's inherently based in the fact that it's inherently based in the sense of other, and wisdom is what takes you to that place, and is what takes you to that understanding that there is no me and there is no separate sense of me and others.
No separate sense of me and other?
Yeah.
You
Otherwise,
mean you and I are the same?
sort of connect that it's not separate. Otherwise,
Not
we
separate?
really-
I feel separate from you and everyone else in the room.
But that's what wisdom would cut through. That
So
sense
that
of
means when I'm thirsty, you're thirsty. When you're thirsty, I'm thirsty. When you're hungry, I'm hungry, right? You have a headache, I have a headache.
Some level, you're connected.
What level might that be?
I'm still ignorant.
Yeah, we're all ignorant. So yeah, this sense of very strong sense of I, right? And me and mine. Let's look at it. It might be easier to look at it in terms of politics also. You feel, oh, my party, my this, my religion, my opinion about this is true. Their opinion is totally wrong. We hold on strongly to something, right? Even it could be something ridiculous that, no, I want my fried egg this way, you've made it the wrong way, or there's slightly too much salt in it, but it becomes a big deal. Why? We're grasping at something, which could be, something so small. So why do we grasp? This grasping happens all the time. And it looks like Buddha is saying that we are the most dangerous form of grasping is when we grasp onto a sense that there is a real person here who is having either a good time or a bad time. But it's a real solid kind of person having this good time or bad time. And you jolly well better be someone who gives this me a good time and not a bad time. If you give me a bad time, or I don't like what you're doing or saying, or you're not helping me, then you are you are really not a nice person. You go in the, negative category, enemy category for now, anyway. Then one day you might be, nice and so forth. Then I'll grasp at you as, a really good person. Otherwise, how can you explain the scenes in churches and marriage halls and the declarations of never-ending love, and then the same people ending up in, court, shrieking, at each other, trying to get as much money out of each other as possible. Something is going on there, right? Which is very solid love, friend, and then solid enemy, whom you even want to, kill even possibly, if you could. But you certainly want to squeeze as much money out of them and malign them in public. I mean, look what happened in that famous trial recently, right? Those Hollywood actors. So, yeah. So something is going on which is preventing us being soft and gentle and affectionate towards others, right? So what normally, just normal logic or common sense would tell us, what stops us being affectionate and gentle and loving towards other people? What do you think?
So
So
Like, go on.
So I think wisdom is necessary because with these things, love and compassion, most times they are probably given with conditions of reciprocation.
Right.
And I think when they do not get reciprocated, then that sense of I comes into probably limelight of focus, and then we feel that giving this love and compassion, as long as it's getting reciprocated, is fine. But the moment it stops, so there's conditionality attached to these things. So I think wisdom probably would try, if somebody is wise, probably they'll try to give all these things as unconditionally as it possible.
What prevents us being unconditional? Would you agree that a child, if all things being equal, it's been brought up relatively nicely and with love and so forth, what makes, would you agree first that a 1 or 2 or 3-year-old child is more capable of spontaneous, unconditional communication and connection with others than most adults? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
So why is that? Why would you think that is? Because I think it is the case. So long as that child hasn't been abused or, beaten or whatever, not fed properly. But if it's a normal, healthy child which has received some, a relatively loving, proper upbringing, aren't they much more communicative, much more open, much more loving even? And not afraid to express their emotions than adults? I think clearly, yes, they are much more.
Yeah.
So what happens? Why are we like this?
I think
Why are most adults a little bit uptight? Is a good word, I think. Uptight. You're aware of that word, right?
yeah.
Why are we uptight? Think about it. It's connected with this. Self-grasping ignorance makes us very uptight. Being uptight seems to be a big hindrance to opening up and expressing positive emotions of any kind. Being uptight.
It would be that as you take that journey from being a kid to be an adult, you probably experience your sense of I getting hurt.
Sure. Yes, getting hurt. Yes.
Sense of I getting hurt when you're expressing, when you're giving out these positive emotions.
Yeah.
You feel not respected or not reciprocated. And over time, you just become very parsimonious, as in you become very
Yes, a bit stingy.
Yeah, with these things. And
it's interesting. The child psychologists, and I presume they're pretty correct about it, they say that for a very young child, they don't, of course, feel there's any separation between themselves and their mother, for example. Very young child, very young infant.
Correct.
Then that gradually, they go through various stages, and then you feel very separate. You assert your independence. You're putting your fingers and things everywhere and creating chaos and, giving heart attacks to your carers. But then the spontaneity also goes, and usually, often by being told, yes, do this, don't do that, come here, behave yourself, or being made to somehow, I don't know, I think some children are made to, come and say hello to the guests and, sing that song that for the guests, become a performer. So the parents can show off their kid, or whatever happens, so many things. I don't want to get into parent blaming, because that's not the point. But, this more and more solid sense of who I am. I think I am. I'm good, I'm bad. I need to do this to get approval. If I do this, I get what I want. If I don't, I don't, blah, 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 blah. All this happens, and it's more and more kind of accretions to this sense of who I am. And I'm definitely something solid and real and hurtable, and but also has this ability to generate the causes of pleasure as well as pain, and also receive it from others. So, both pleasure and pain. And that makes me feel there's somebody real inside who is receiving these things or not receiving that. Buddha says, investigate that image of what you think is some real person in there who gets this or doesn't get that. Because, just to jump ahead, which can be useful, you also find Buddhists saying, some of the most famous writers in their writings on wisdom, that all is just like space. All is just like space. Shantideva famously says in the 10th chapter, in the 9th chapter of his great work, which we study a lot in the context of compassion, in his wisdom chapter, he says, "Oh, you who investigate reality, please recognize this, that all is just like space." So what are we to make of that? What I make of it is that at a basic level, we need to be less uptight and more spacious, have more space in the mind, and not be contracted all the time, more space, and not react to things as though they're a personal threat, conspiracy against me. Don't take things so personally. Yeah, somebody.
Sometimes we know that somebody is not intentionally behaving badly with us, they're stressed or whatever. But after some time, it's just draining to keep tolerating that. How do you increase your tolerance when you know somebody, say, has a busy job, that's why they're irritated, and they're not irritated at you personally, but after some time it does get overwhelming, and then you may snap.
Why does it get overwhelming?
I don't know.
Are you sure you don't know? Theoretically, at least, having received so many teachings. So many. Rinpoche would say, so many teachings.
So thanks to the teachings, one is
No, not
aware,
thanks.
at least aware that those things are not personally directed.
Why aren't they personally
At
directed?
some intellectual level.
They might be personally directed. That person might be very personally directing their venom on you for reasons best known to them or all known to both of you. You might have done something to them in the past, so now they are very personally doing what they are doing to you. So, but why is it so problematic for us? That's the question. Why is it so difficult for us to translate theoretical knowledge from the teachings on how to train the mind? Why is it so difficult to transform it into actual practice? What gets in the way? Nivita? Oh, sir?
So is it?
Are you going to answer the question? Yeah.
Is it a sense of attachment to ourselves?
Exactly. Well done, sir. See, new students are the best because their mind is fresh. They're not searching for the best answer out of 20,000 things in the head. They are well done. Well, yeah, we are basically self-grasping ignorance, attachment to me, whatever that is. And we're not sure who I am. We're not sure who we are, but we have a sense, an image of me, just as we have an image of everybody else. And one great sage of India fame, beautifully said how we don't have relationships with other people. We have relationships with images of other people. We don't relate to actual reality. We relate to a mental image based on what? All of our previous experiences with that person and all sorts of things coming up from our own unconscious, maybe from our own fear, our own expectation, whatever. It creates an image. I mean, yeah, Paul.
Can that mean what is that the person, we are being selfish?
We are being?
Selfish.
It leads to selfishness in the sense of self-centeredness, which could then lead to very selfish behavior, thinking, I need to take care of myself.
I mean myself first. First.
If I don't take care of myself, then, problem. A kind of insecurity will come, won't it? That's why we need friends. They're helping me. I love them. They help me. And enemies are problematic because they don't help me. And if I felt okay and totally contented with myself, why would I care if somebody didn't help me or didn't like me or abused me occasionally? What's the problem? No problem. That's their problem. But we make it a problem because we put up a target. We put up the target. It's like a stupid bull carrying a red rag with itself and constantly getting angry with it, with that red cloth which it keeps on hanging in front of its face from its horns. We are just torturing ourselves by putting up a target which gets hit. So this is where the spaciousness comes in. If I don't see myself as so solid, but as a more, okay, relaxed, spacious being, of course, things will still annoy us. It's not like we'll go around not doing anything about injustice or saying, oh yeah, people can do what they want because it's all just like space. It is, but there is a relative world we're living in, a conventional world. You can't just go around quoting Shantideva and saying it doesn't matter. But the point is, from our own psychological perspective, mental perspective, for ourselves to be calm, clear, kind, gentle, loving, compassionate, we need to let go of holding on so strongly to something because it's just a barrier. It's like wearing a suit of armor and going to a party thinking people are going to enjoy dancing with you, and you have this heavy suit of armor on you, maybe a lance as well, to hurt people because you feel so insecure. Of course, we all have our own suits of armor underneath the clothing. We have plenty of physical armoring, according to people who do deep massage and things. We have a whole bunch of armors, at different levels, muscle level, and even the energetic level, which is where the Vajrayana teachings of Buddhism come in, because they speak of our problems as directly related to the energy flows within the body, the subtle energy flows in 72,000 or 84,000 subtle channels, or whatever. So we have that holding, but basically Buddha is saying, yeah, we have put up a lot of barriers between ourselves and others. We've erected the barriers, and of course our experience of life has made us strengthen those barriers. It's like having many layers of Berlin Wall in one's mind. So, which made one teacher say that actually renunciation is giving up anything that acts as a barrier between oneself and others. And it's easier said than done. Giving up anything that acts as a barrier between oneself and others. The biggest barrier is not, what religion I am or what color my skin is or anything. It's holding on to oneself, grasping in an uptight way, feeling there is something to protect, something that therefore needs to control its world and get what it can, push away what is a threat. For a spacious yogi, nothing is a threat. There is no threat, there is no problem. For the real yogi, meaning the real highly evolved practitioner, there is no, oh, sorry, has someone had a hand up for so long? Or they lowered their hand in despair? Who put their hand up? Oh, I put my hand up. Why is the hand up next to me? Hello, I'm sorry. Put my own hand. Yep. What else? Magic 8 o'clock. Time flies when you're having fun. What Rinpoche says here is very good. Listen to this. Even though you may not understand everything, listen to this. This is the kernel of it, actually, in many ways. The I that appears to exist as though it were real is only a label. That's all. But the I that we've merely labeled on this body and mind doesn't appear as though it were merely a label. It doesn't appear as it is. It appears as though it's existing somehow solidly from its own side, independently. This ignorance, this self-grasping ignorance, the conception, the thought that completely clings to the belief that the I that appears to exist from its own side is 100% true, this is the ignorance that holds the I to be self-existent. All the confused minds, dissatisfied mind and anger, arise from this ignorance. And all life's other problems come from these confused minds. Not only makes your own life a problem, but also makes you create problems for others. So that's the thing. We believe as though this I really exists independently from its own side. We don't realize that it's just a label, actually, we put on conveniently to what is called body and mind. There is a body, there is a mind. They're both very, very complex, especially in Buddhism. The mind is looked at in all of its complexity. And the body we know from modern science, incredibly complex mechanism. I mean, Tibetan medicine didn't probably know every single thing, connected with the body, but modern science and or whatever, we know how, well, inner Tibetan medicine maybe knows a lot more than modern science. Anyway, what I'm saying is we know a lot about the body, how it functions, how many bits and pieces there are to the body. And we know from psychology and from the Buddhist, especially from Buddhist psychology, how many different aspects there are to awareness, consciousness. So that's what we are, all these bits and pieces, basically, mental consciousnesses and so forth. So we don't need some kind of big, solid, fat I that controls all of it. That doesn't exist. It works on its own. All these different mental factors work together. We don't need a kind of controller, but we think there must be a controller. We believe in the controller, central headquarters. We believe in it, that it's somehow independently there, some real independent sort of quality there. This is not easy to understand, but for some people, the words do ring some bells, even the first time you hear it. Then Rinpoche stopped and they had a short meditation. Okay, let's do this short meditation. Otherwise, it's just words, isn't it? We can do it in 6 or 7 minutes. We do it short. I think Rinpoche would have done it a bit longer. But so, yeah, just start with a spacious state of mind. And that, look, I'm going to investigate the I with the trust that it can be useful in unraveling our confusion and helping me to develop a more spacious, warm, loving attitude towards myself and others. So the first part, it's not easy, actually. Even the first line is, think how the I appears to you. How does the I appear to you? How does it appear to exist? And how do we think of that I? And how do we label it? What do we label it as? So how does this I appear, or the me, the I, appear to us? How do we label it? Just think of the I, of yourself. Don't think about the general I, about human beings in general. Think about yourself, your I. Think, I. Me. You could think me, if that's easier. Man. Now, if you feel that there is some kind of subject, a meditator, an I that can be found, that looks as though it can be found, a real I, then concentrate on that. And at the same time, let a part of the mind be aware of your own body all the things that are inside your body. Skin, flesh, bones, ribs. Especially think about the chest part, the lungs, the heart. All the inside details. Okay, so it seems Rinpoche is asking us to do two things. Look for this real I that seems like it could be found. Concentrate on that, and at the same time, let a part of the mind be aware of your own body. All the things inside your body, skin, flesh, bones, all of that. Lungs, heart, blood vessels, flesh, fat, bones, marrow. Blood, lymph. So first think I. You try to feel an I that can really be found, one that is really inside here, especially from here down. Rinpoche points to the chest. From the neck to the heart, in a kind of darkness. It's not clear. Then when you've seen this I, let a part of the mind be aware of all your insides, searching for where that subject I is, where it might be. Check on the heart. Then after that, check in the head, the ears, the nose, the brain, and maybe inside the tongue. Also go inside the hands and legs. Be aware of how the body looks inside. Check inside and think, where is it? Where is the I? Where's the me? At the very beginning, you should not think, oh, that doesn't exist. You should think that the I can be found. You see, the result is this, that you really can't find the I, even though it looked as though it could be found perhaps in the beginning. When you searched in detail, nothing. In the beginning, it looks as though the I can really be found, but once you start to search, it kind of disappears. You cannot find that particular place in that area where you always believed it to exist. You can't find it in your legs, you can't find it in your head, it's neither inside nor outside your body. But there is definitely an I that gets tired, that has leg pains, that wants to go out, wants to sleep. There is definitely an I that meditates, that's unhappy, that wants to be happy, that wants to drink cappuccino. There is an I, but not that I. Isn't it strange? Maybe someone might have found it somewhere. Has anybody found it? Did anybody find the I? This Rinpoche spoke of that I. There is an I, but not that I. So of course there's an I. There's an I, there's a you, because definitely I'm going to get up after this meditation. Oh, who is I? What is I? That's interesting. We speak technically of nominal existence, analytical unfindability. Certain way of analyzing, it's unfindable. But of course, nominally there is an I. How could we function without an I, without any sense of I? If we thought that, well, I is just you or the collective, or, don't know who I am at all. I mean, no sense of I, then we wouldn't be able to function. We would kind of act randomly, it seems to me. How could there be hunger if there's no I to feed? If we didn't feel there was any I whatsoever, we wouldn't eat or drink, theoretically, logically speaking. Anyway, this is all to be investigated, and that's why Rinpoche puts this at the beginning of courses, to get the students, wake up the students, even scare them to some extent. Some people get scared by these teachings in the sense that we're being asked to think about things we never thought of, and it makes me feel uneasy that I cannot find my I, and that the I, the way it exists may be different from what I thought. What I thought may be kind of hallucination, which is how it is often described. Sense of an independent, solid, inherent I from its own side, not dependently arising. If that's a hallucination, it could be very threatening for us. If we really to experience it, it should be very threatening to so-called ego. Anyway, yeah, obviously more to be researched here. Maybe some things in the chat now. Thank you. I am my laughter and tears. Yes, thank you, Kabirji. Okay, thank you, Minotiji. Oh, excuse me. I'm on the train again, so weak connection, so no face. Good evening, everyone. Greetings, namaste. Yeah, good. Thank you. So, is there an I? Bob, is there an I? Maybe in the smartphone. I think our eyes are in the smartphone. They've transferred. That's why I was searching for ourselves in the smartphone. It's transmigrated to the smartphone. Yeah, today?
I think maybe this week, people didn't.
Hmm.
Well, he was very senior.
Of course, yeah.
I didn't see that much. There was
Those not busy born are busy dying, said Bob Dylan. Yes. Okay, so anyway, because it came from Rinpoche, it's worthwhile. And we had a little look at it, so that's good. Something from 1983. That's why I mentioned cappuccino. If he'd been talking to Indian students, he might have said something else. Let's dedicate the positive energy then. These discussions can go on forever, but there's enough food for thought. Rinpoche advises when one is doing this kind of practice, it's useful to think when you're out on the street walking, to think, why do I say I'm walking down the street? Main reason is because the body is performing the action of walking. So we say, I am walking. We may have had an argument with someone and are feeling emotionally drained. So I am tired. Why? Because you've had that argument, the mind is feeling that way. But sometimes it's the body, sometimes it's the mind, or my leg is paining, or feel hungry, it's my stomach. Yeah. So it's a label which is very convenient, which can be used. And then we have to look at the sense behind that, that we do feel still that there is some real, somehow independent owner, an I who is the owner, you see, of all of this other stuff. The I who owns the head, my body. But that gets interesting. Where is the owner of this body and mind? That becomes, for me, the best way to approach it. Because if I say, okay, this is my book, which it is, I'm here and I have a book, I own it. So if I say my head, okay, my book, my head, where's the owner of this head? Where's the owner of the leg? The Kabir who says, my leg, my head, my heart. You see what I mean? Where is it? Where's the owner? There is obviously an owner. In law, there's an owner. It's not you. I own it. I own this laptop. I own this leg. No one can say that's my leg. Try and rip it off. If you do, I can take you to court. I have to go in on crutches. He took my leg. He thought it was his leg. It's my leg. But where's the owner? You have some Madhyamaka Prasangika lawyer, he'll convince you there's no owner. So you lose the case. You lose your case. You lose your leg. Because there's no owner that can be found. So obviously, there's need to investigate these things. Okay, so as a result of this discussion, investigation based on Rinpoche's teaching, may there be benefit. May we be creating causes also for Rinpoche to return, to teach, you see. Which, because he wants us, the Lama, the true teachers want us to practice. They around to just receive our praise or they want us to practice. That makes them happiest because they want us to benefit. So hopefully there's being benefit. May we never be separated from authentic teachings and teachers in this and in the future, this and future lives. And through investigation, may we discover more and more sense of spaciousness, less and less feeling of uptight, and in this way fulfill the potential of being human, which is to become a fully awakened Buddha. And a fully awakened person can bestow incredible benefit on others. Mhm. Thank you all very much, especially new people, Akshay, and yeah. Thanks to all the worthy, all old faithfuls, Sujiti, Dr. Ghosh, Neil, Vinu, Ayesha, yeah. Thank you very much. Take care.
Pranam,
and
Kabir Ji.
for now.